Now, the Police Federation, which represents rank-and-file officers, has claimed that policing is not prepared for a repeat of last summer's protests.
Yes, officers are deployed to keep the peace outside a four-star hotel in London, reportedly preparing to welcome asylum seekers. Those deployments stretching resources.
Yes, the rise in tensions isn't helped, perhaps, by a Daily Mail exclusive today, revealing that thousands of migrants are now using their taxpayer-funded handouts at casinos and betting shops.
Yeah, this is extraordinary. But is this all a start of a summer of unrest? Well, here to pick it apart is our Home and Security Editor, Mark White.
Well, certainly there's great concern, I think, as far as the Police Federation are concerned, because they are under pressure. Policing is under pressure from politicians and the public, quite rightly, to investigate the crimes that people are really concerned about, such as shoplifting. The figures today showing 500,000 shoplifting offences last year compared to the year before. It was up 20%. Street crime as well, so robbery and theft of a person, also up as well. Knife crime, it's shown a slight drop, but only a very slight drop. It's still very stubbornly high. So these are areas the police want to concentrate on. But while we have issues around migrant hotels and concerns that communities have and protests, those protests have to be manned. And the police require, significant resources to properly man a protest in case things should turn to disorder. They need to have enough numbers to be able to deal with that. So when you're doing that, you're taking away resources from the front line.
Now, it's being reported quite widely today that members of the Homeland Group, in particular 3 members of this Homeland Group, which is being described as a fascist group, neo-Nazi organisation, similar to that of Patriotic Alternative, which I believe is banned, are the sole administrators of this group called Epping Says No, and that they've been helping to organise these anti-migrant protests. And the suggestion is that, therefore, it is neo-Nazis who are leading these Epping hotel protests and essentially spurring it all on. Is there any truth to that, Mark?
Well, it's this old bogeyman again, isn't it, of the far right orchestrating all of these protests. Well, I can tell you that the protest in Epping, at its genesis in local issues, in an issue around the Bell Hotel with an asylum seeker charged with serious sexual offences, going through the courts. He denies that. But that's why local people were very concerned and mobilised in that area to come out. Now, it's absolutely, I'm sure, accurate that some agitators have jumped on that bandwagon and are trying, to get publicity for whatever cause they have on the back of it. But the same is true of the other side as well. And if you want to talk about organised protests, take a look at the anti-fascist brigade that come out, that mobilise every time there's a protest outside of a hotel. They have their prepared placards that are there. That is completely orchestrated. But I think, in terms of what we're seeing around migrant hotels, it's mainly local people with some real concerns. But as I say, there will be others that join in and for whatever reasons can stir things off. But we heard, remember, back in last year, in fact, almost a year ago, the 1st of August, when I was in Downing Street listening to the Prime Minister giving a news conference in the wake of the disorder that broke out after Southport. And under the banner, he said, of far-right thuggery. He said in terms at the lectern there that what was happening is the far-right were mobilising. They were taking trains up to communities and orchestrating this disorder. That was not borne out by actually what happened in the end in terms of the many hundreds of arrests that were made and the many hundreds of court cases that subsequently followed. Not a single one provided evidence of any far-right agitator from outside of a community taking a train or any other mode of transport to come and orchestrate violence. Every single court case that I'm aware of, and I'm aware of many, many of them over that period, were, as far as I could see, people from that local area caught up in violence, clearly doing wrong in that sense, but not people from outside of an area, not this sort of spectre of the far right mobilising.
It's easier to deal with, though, isn't it, for politicians?
Well, it is, if you have a boogeyman,
far right, rather than actually there are thousands of people.
That's not to say that there aren't far right people who turn up and latch on to the organic protest, but
which is what we just said, because that is absolutely what's happening. But to say that it's being orchestrated and organised at the beginning from the far right, I just think is not actually borne out by the facts.
Yes, there are a lot of myths going around, aren't there?
If you're a US resident, let's face it, things feel uncertain right now. America's national debt, over $36 trillion and climbing. Inflation, still eating away at your savings. And the dollar, down nearly 8% this year, with more countries walking away from it. Meanwhile, the markets, one day they're up, the next day, trillions gone in a blink. So it's no surprise people are asking, where can I actually put my money and sleep at night? That's why more investors are turning to gold and silver. Gold's up over 24% this year, smashing records and soaring past $3,300 an ounce. And some analysts say we could see $6,000 gold before the end of Trump's term. And silver, it's heating up fast, driven by demand in tech, solar and defence. Some analysts say it could double in value this year. If you've been thinking about moving part of your IRA or 401k into gold or silver, tax and penalty free, our friends at Priority Gold make it simple. They're endorsed by Rich Dad's Robert Kiyosaki, ranked #1 by Forbes and Financial Services Review, and trusted by thousands of everyday Americans. Right now, GBNews viewers can get a free wealth preservation guide from Priority Gold. It shows you exactly how to add real gold and silver to your IRA or 401k tax and penalty free. Step by step plain English, no pressure, just smart information you can act on. Just scan the QR code, click the link in the description below, or if you're a US resident, text WEALTH to 24999. That's WEALTH to 24999 and claim your free guide today. The price of gold can go down as well as up. Past performance does not indicate future performance. Only invest what you can afford.
Let's speak to Holly Whitbread, who's the Conservative councillor for Epping Forest District Council, which of course is home to the hotel that's been the centre of a lot of these protests. Holly, just on that point, a lot of the papers going with the idea that neo-Nazis are leading some of these anti-migrant hotel protests in particular in Epping. Is that borne out by the evidence that you've seen, Holly?
So certainly, especially last week on Thursday, local people were leading the peaceful protest that started. Although you mentioned the Homeland Party, there is one guy called Callum Barker who is actually from Epping, but he's an activist in the Homeland Party and previously Patriotic Alternative. I've been warning about him for quite some time because he's kind of been masquerading as a kind of community activist for quite a while. So he was one of the agitators on stage giving speeches, but I wouldn't for a minute say that there weren't local people there who were generally concerned about the issues around the hotel.
And this is where it gets difficult, right? Because there are people who turn up and then try and spread white supremacist propaganda and all the rest of it, and they get all the media attention. Meanwhile, I am absolutely sure they are massively outnumbered by your constituents, the people that have no interest in formal, organised politics of any particular direction, who just don't want to see a massive grade asylum hotel in their community. I mean, frankly, isn't it just that simple?
I think that's absolutely right. You know, most people who were there and most people I talked to on the high street want the hotel to close, and they've wanted the hotel to close since it reopened, and that's certainly the case with the council. They actually also don't want to see the violence that we've seen off the back of some of these protests. There's certainly probably a level of fear within our community. I mean, we're a very quiet town, and the other day we had riot police walking down our streets at kind of 10 o'clock at night, so it's just not what we expect to see. So there are certainly people in these protests who are local people protesting peacefully, and actually they don't want their protests to be hijacked by professional protesters.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we covered the Chief Constable of Essex Police in his press conference that he had, where he was asked lots of questions about how these protests have been policed. And it didn't sound as though the police were going to change their tactics because, of course, there was some accusation that perhaps they were escorting anti-racist protesters in, not keeping the two groups apart, and then escorting them back and essentially facilitating what became a bit of a standoff. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Holly?
I think the police are in an extremely difficult position. Ultimately, whether I disagree with the other side or not, everyone has a right for peaceful protest. So they have to manage that protest, both for the safety of local people who aren't involved in the protest, but also for those who are protesting. So they are in an extremely difficult position, and they are putting a dispersal order in place for this evening. We've got a council meeting and there's a protest kind of surrounding that this evening. So that's a slight change in tactics. The dispersal order starting at 2 o'clock rather than kind of at 10:30 after everything's happened. So it'll be interesting to see how those tactics work tonight, and hopefully it will be a peaceful protest this evening.
Well, really, really interesting stuff, Holly. I hope you stay safe for that council meeting. But Holly Whitbread, thanks indeed for joining us here, Councillor for Epping Forest District Council.
So strengthening the rules on that front with dispersal orders, that's an interesting development.